Hey everyone, it's Tomo with HKSlays, and today I'm very pleased to be sharing with you one of my favorite baits of all time, the Shimano Waxwing. And this bait does have a lot of history with me. I've used the Waxwing, of course, all over the Delta. Hundreds of striped bass have been slayed on this bait, many largemouth bass. Southern California, fishing the islands, San Clemente, Coronados, etc. This bait has proven to be very effective for calico bass, barracuda, bonita, and of course down there in Panama, this is definitely a bait that is tied up, ready to go if we're running and gunning on boils. If they're not hitting the poppers too well, the Waxwing is almost guaranteed to catch a fish when you throw it in and around those boils. You'll see in this footage right here where it actually worked as a good bait maker too. The bonita seemed to go crazy on this bait, and I didn't even have to cast or wind or anything. I just dangled it off the side of the boat and kind of dragged it on the surface, and as you could see, they are all over it. But that said, it is just a very good, versatile bait to have on hand, and it's one of those baits that it's a good search bait, casts well, cover a lot of water with it. Active fish go absolutely crazy on it. Good reaction bait in that regard, and a really fun bait to throw. Now, of course, the Waxwing comes in a wide variety of sizes and colors. The bait that was my go-to bait for a lot of years, out on the Delta at least, was this bait right here. This is what they call the green shad color. It's got a green top. Not sure if you can see it there. A little orange on the belly, and then kind of a silverish with a little shad dot on it. This color, this bait, has caught countless Delta stripers. I'll be quick to say I've never caught giant fish on this bait, but good fish, good schoolie sized fish. Lots of small fish, obviously, they just tear this one up. But this size, this color is the bait that I threw for a lot of years, caught a lot of fish on. Saltwater fishing wise, this color and this size, this is the junior size. It's a 4.5 inch bait. This is the only color I bring when fishing saltwater, but I'm only fishing the Eastern Pacific, whether it's Panama or Southern California offshore. Sardines or sardina are one of the primary forage fish out there. So it's a pretty safe bet to always have the sardine color on hand. And this size too, this 4.5 inch size, tends to work out pretty well. This size too, for nicer fish. I mean, you know, we've had smaller fish eat this bait, but this 6.5 inch size, what they call the daddy, okay? And of course, the wings, the wax wings. That is what gives this bait its unique kicking action. When I first saw that, I'm like, kind of hokey. But then I tried it, and I really, really appreciate this design. It gives this bait this insane kicking pattern, which is pretty hard to do, I'd imagine, to get a bait to do what it does, but it works out quite well. And again, 6.5 inch daddy sized. Also comes in this smaller size here. This is a 2.5 inch. I think they call this the baby, and for obvious reasons, it's tiny. But there's times I use this primarily out on the Delta, late summer, early fall. The bait can be really tiny, and this, when I'm trying to match the hatch, this is often a bait that I go to. Reason I go to it again is the length to weight ratio is superior on this bait. I can throw this on pretty much most of my rods. You know, if I got a 50-pound braid, 25-pound leader, cast this bait, no problem. If I had to guess on the weight, it's probably 1.25 ounces, something like that. But a really good way to downsize and still use the appropriate gear. That's what I love about this size. But what I really want to talk about today, and what we'll be seeing in today's video, is this bait right here. This is the suspending Waxwing, 4.5 inch size, the junior size, I guess they call it. And you can see from the top looking down, this bait has a much wider profile than this bait. Same size, non-suspending, suspending. So that's where that's due to the air chamber in there, okay? And I'll be quick to say that this bait is not a suspending bait. It's more of a very slow sinker, but it suspends enough to be able to work some variation into your technique, whether it's subsurface or whether it's working it like a topwater bait, walking the dog. This bait really opens up the opportunities of variation. And for me, the fun factor is increased tenfold by having a bait that can float. You can work like a topwater bait. You give it a few seconds, it'll go subsurface, it'll pause, it'll do a whole variety of things. And to me, that's what makes the Shimano Waxwing and the Delta Striper application, at least, probably one of the most fun baits you can throw, and a bait that you, with just one rod, one bait, you can vary up your technique from topwater to subsurface, slow to fast, walk the dog to aggressive kick. It covers it all. And you'll be able to better match the mood of the fish. That's one very clear advantage when using this bait. So I suppose that's enough talking about it. Without further ado, let's head out to the California Delta and check out some on-the-water footage with these baits in use. Okay, it looks just like I thought it would look. We're about a third of the way through the outgoing tide, so it's still a little fat up in here, but the water is super clean. Still got a ways to go to where the conditions we had the other day. We were fishing more at the bottom of the tide the other day, and it bit right through the bottom of the tide, through the slack period, and right into the incoming until the dirty water came back. But today it looks perfect. So we're going to slide up here. Right now we're in about 4 feet. I'll get up here in about 2-3 feet of water and get a little farther up there and just start drifting our way back with the tide and the wind, and hopefully we get some action really quick. The suspending waxwing. That bait too was on fire the other day, and again, I hope that we're able to capture some of that action on video for you today, because it is amazing. When you work this bait as a topwater bait, a walk the dog style bait, or type retrieve, this bait is amazing. So I don't see any reason why we can't just start right here. We're kind of on the outer edge. Those fish bit up a little tighter up in this cut here Saturday, but we're going to start here and we'll just work our way that way, trying to make sure we don't pass over any fish on our way to the honey hole. I'm going to start with the waxwing. I'm just feeling it. I got the trolling motor on spot lock, working my baits with the current. This waxwing is just below the surface. And that's the cool thing about these waxwings, the variety of retrieve, especially with the suspending ones, is quite varied. You know, they're designed to just cast and wind, and they get bit just casting and winding for sure. But with these suspending baits, you get it on the surface, keep it up there by keeping the rod tip high like this, and you can work it like a topwater bait. That's what I love to do. And the blow-ups, just like a, regular walk the dog type bait, the blow-ups and swirls are pretty amazing, not to mention the bites. And the cool thing, because it's a suspending bait, and they call it suspending, but this bait is a slow sinker. Okay, so when I suspend it, I don't let it hang for more than just a couple seconds. But that pause, that's a good thing to call as a pause, tends to get bit more often than not. So making sure to throw some pauses into my retrieve when using this. You see, we got all these turns around here too. They were here yesterday, but I don't know, there's probably at least a half dozen of them out there just popping around looking for, looking for breakfast, I'm sure. Excellent sign. Of all the birds I like to see out here, the tern bird is the one that to me is always the most promising. As you can see right here, you can see how all the weeds, are just laying that way. These are your telltales. as far as which way, obviously which way the current is going. So bow into the current is what I'm doing right now. Again, taking advantage of this opening, if you will, between the weeds that allows this current to kind of flow out a little bit more uninhibited. And in this clearing, there's patches of weeds and buckets and holes and places where these fish tend to hang out. And that's what the hope is today, is that they are spread out in this little channel here and just hanging out, waiting for their targets of opportunity, moments of opportunity, hoping that the waxwing is going to give them that moment. Working it, topwater bait. You can see when it all works out. It's kind of fickle though. You know, the drift of the boat in relation to the wind and current, the way you're working your bait, it all has to kind of work out optimally for that bait to really go side to side to get that really good walk the dog motion. But today is ideal because I'm casting into the wind and current. A lot of times I'm just spot locking and working that bait straight back to me tends to walk laterally really well. So let me see if I can get it right here. See, if you just wind it, it just goes back and forth like that. But you can really walk the dog with this bait when it's all working out. I'm going to downsize to the 88 boy size. It's 3.5 inch. The bigger one is just getting swirled on. I've got a couple fish on this one though today. Smaller ones are a little bit harder to walk the dog with. They sink quicker and they're just tighter. Oh, there it is.
Got it.
Yeah,
Yep.
Little guy. And just like that, I pick up the 88 sized waxwing, make a cast, and boom, nailed it. Small but fun. Beats sitting at home. Beats mowing the lawn, that's for sure. Lawn mow killer right here.